All right, let's dive into an idea that's about 2,500 years old, but believe me, it is absolutely wreaking havoc in our world right now. You know, social media, AI, all of our political debates, it all traces back to one thinker and one deceptively simple question that is more relevant today than it has ever been. Seriously, just think about that for a second. What if there's no such thing as objective reality? What if the truth is just whatever you perceive it to be? Now, this isn't some plot from a new sci-fi movie. No, this was the explosive idea at the very heart of an intellectual revolution that turned ancient Athens completely upside down.
And the people behind this revolution, they were a brand new breed of thinkers called the Sophists. Now, I want you to forget any image you have of dusty old philosophers staring up at the stars. These guys were different. They were the world's first professional intellectuals, the first consultants, and they rolled into Athens like rock stars, ready to change the whole game.
You see, before the Sophists showed up, philosophy was pretty much all about physis, the study of nature, atoms, the planets, the fundamental building blocks of the universe. But the Sophists, they completely flipped the script. They basically said, hey, the most important problems aren't out there in the cosmos, they're right here on Earth, in the world of nomos, that is, human laws, our culture, and our customs.
So why was this shift so incredibly important? Well, you have to remember, Athens was this new radical democracy. And in a place like that, your life, your property, your entire political career, it all came down to one thing: your ability to stand up in court or in the public assembly and persuade everyone else. All of a sudden, the art of a good argument wasn't just some fancy skill, it was the key to survival.
And wow, this created a huge market for what the Sophists were selling. They were basically wisdom merchants. They taught rhetoric, which is the art of persuasion that could win over a jury. They literally invented the world's first system of higher education for adults. They were even the pioneers in studying grammar and logic. They were deconstructing language itself so they could master it. They weren't just thinkers. They were selling a toolkit for power.
And the biggest star of this whole movement? The undisputed heavyweight champion was a man named Protagoras of Abdera. This guy wasn't just a teacher. He was a full-blown revolutionary whose ideas would echo for thousands of years.
And was he successful? Oh my gosh, yes. Protagoras reportedly charged 10,000 drachmas for his course. Now, to put that into perspective for you, a skilled worker back then earned about 1 drachma a day. This guy was the first person in history to basically create a high-ticket consulting business, and he became incredibly wealthy doing it. And his backstory is just incredible. The legend goes that he started out as a humble porter, just a laborer, but he was so clever at tying bundles of wood that he caught the eye of the philosopher Democritus. From there, he shot up the ladder, becoming a close advisor to Pericles, who was the most powerful man in Athens. He even got hired to write the entire constitution for a brand new Greek city. Think about that. This was a philosopher building a society from the ground up.
So, what was his big, earth-shattering idea? Well, it's all right here in this one sentence. Man is the measure of all things. What on earth does that mean? It means there's no objective external truth. Truth is personal. It's relative. So if the wind feels cold to you, then for you, it is cold. If it feels warm to me, then for me, it is warm. There's no actual temperature out there, only our individual perceptions of it. Reality itself is subjective.
Okay, so how do you prove something that radical? How do you show off the power of this kind of thinking? Well, Protagoras became the star of this legendary legal showdown, a story that perfectly shows sophist logic in action and how it could literally break the old way of doing things. So here's the setup. A young student named Euathlus strikes this really clever deal with Protagoras. He pays half the tuition up front, but he only has to pay the second half after he wins his very first court case. Smart, right? But then, after he graduates, Euathlus just decides not to become a lawyer. He never takes a case, and so he never has to pay up. Protagoras gets fed up and decides to sue him. And in court, he lays out this perfect trap. He argues, look, if I win this case, the court will order you to pay me. Simple. But if I lose this case, then you will have won your first case, and our contract says you have to pay me. So either way, you pay. But Euathlus, who is obviously a very good student, has a perfect counter. He says, not so fast. If I win this case, the court says I don't have to pay. But if I lose this case, then I still haven't won my first case, so our contract says I don't have to pay. So either way, I pay nothing. It's this perfect
unbreakable logical loop. I mean, the judges were completely paralyzed. They had no idea what to do. The legend says they actually postponed the case for 100 years, which is basically their way of just giving up. Protagoras had proved his point. With clever enough arguments, you could make the weaker case seem stronger, and you could break the entire system.
And that's the thing. This wasn't just some clever party trick. This idea, this legacy of relativism, the notion that pretty much any perspective can be argued as valid, it has these profound consequences that stretch all the way from a courtroom in Athens to our world right now. In fact, you could make a pretty strong argument that our modern AI and social media algorithms are the ultimate Protagoran machines. Think about it. They don't search for objective truth. They just measure man, our clicks, our likes, our search history. They are designed to find whatever is most persuasive to us and then make that argument even stronger, creating these perfect echo chambers completely regardless of the facts. And that leaves us right back where the Athenians were, facing the same terrifying question. If man is the measure, if every truth is just personal and any argument can be made to seem strong, what common ground do we have left? What possibly holds a society together? It's a question that set the stage for the next great philosopher, a man who would dedicate and ultimately sacrifice his entire life to find an answer: Socrates.